You're listening to the Feed Your Wild podcast, a conscious lifestyle show about all things nourishing for your body, mind, and soul. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez, and join me for candid conversations with changemakers, exploring health and wellness, food as medicine, intuition and spirituality, and nature-based practices that will transform your health and feed all parts of your wild self. Happy post-summer solstice. Welcome back to the Feed Your Wild podcast. I'm Vanessa, your host and intuitive nourishment guide. In this episode, as we talk about this new moon in Cancer, I was quiet last week during the solstice as I really just sort of took that time to commune with the sun, connect with that energy and the beginning of Cancer season. I myself am a Cancer sun sign, so my birthday was yesterday, June 27th, and my little babe, my baby Santos, is Cancer rising. So we got lots of emo energy here, in addition to lots of other water in our family circle. So I've been feeling the highlights and some of the lowlights in this time, and I feel we're going to continue to experience that. So today I am getting into this Cancer new moon, talking a little bit about the cosmic forces, what's been going on, and also get into an Akashic channeling that I was invited to do today by my guides. And we have a tarot card pull at the end, which I think will be really helpful for a lot of folks tuning in. At least that's my hope. So let's just dive right in. I'm not going to hold back. We'll keep this pretty to the point because there's a lot going on out there and you don't need any more fluff or distractions. So what do we have with this Cancer new moon? Well, it's peaking on June 28th and 29th, depending on where you are in the world. I am releasing this podcast on the 28th, and it's at 7 degrees 22 in Cancer. So for those of you who like to track this stuff in your personal natal chart, I recommend to check out which house this might land and where 7 degrees 22 of Cancer is for you and what that might mean for you in terms of the influences in that part of your life. Of course, the moon itself is ruled by Cancer. And so this is its home. This is where it feels good and solid and harmonious. And there's definitely that sense that we can experience with this new moon, sort of that sense of belonging. And as with all new moons, this is a beginning of a new cycle. So with all new moons, we have that ability to tap into what it is that we want to plant, to seed for this next moon cycle and beyond, and to really draw our attention to our intentions and our prayers and our desires, what it is that we want to manifest in our lives. So new moons are wonderful for this. They bring that fresh new energy to work with. And usually we experience that potency of that effect after they peak. So stay tuned this week for that and allowing it to emerge in its own timing. Even if you are not a Cancer or a water sign, you may be feeling this in terms of your sensitivity levels. You might feel just more sensitive in general, maybe a little bit more intuitive. And this can go kind of both ends of the spectrum, right? Where you experience it much more deeply and feel connected and centered and compassion. And you can also go on the other end and be reactive and responsive. I talked about Neptune last time with our full moon, and I'm going to get into Neptune again. But this time I wanted to bring in this element of Black Moon Lilith. So Black Moon Lilith is close to the energy of the new moon in June. It's in the sign of Cancer. And Black Moon Lilith is, in astrology, the point along the moon's orbital path that is farthest from the Earth. And so in terms of astrology, it's connected to our primal urges and unconscious desires. Black Moon Lilith, especially the dark feminine and feminine wild. It's connected to our basic sexual nature and primordial instincts. And the energy of it is very raw, very instinctual, but in a way that it has been suppressed or shunned, right, in our current society. And so Black Moon Lilith does not follow man-made law. Black Moon Lilith only follows those laws of nature and spiritual laws. So this archetype can, yes, be empowering, but there's also very heavy and dark myth that comes along with Lilith. So I just wanted to touch in on that a little bit because I think it's really connected to what's happening, especially in the United States this past week and what will continue to happen as it relates to sexuality and birth and this governance and rulership over sexuality, which we see with the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade. So whatever your stance is on this topic, I think this really applies. When you look at it from a biblical perspective, Lilith was said to be the first wife of Adam and was this character that refused to succumb to Adam, to bend to his will and be sort of suppressed or oppressed. And so Lilith was cast out of the Garden of Eden, and that was her punishment. And after the banishment, she meets with the serpent and makes a deal and is never heard from again. In other myths, she turns into a demon and preys on the babies, on pregnant women and babies and children, and causes miscarriage and stillbirth. And so going after the children. So that's one myth. There are other myths around Lilith that are through other cultural understandings. So there is a Sumerian myth that around 3000 BC, Lilith was considered to be part of a group of storm spirits called Lilitu, and that these spirits were believed to prey on women and children. And so these deserts were associated with storms and disease. And once again, you see that connection there, really preying on women and children. In Mesopotamian myth, Lilith is considered a female demon that was found in the trunk of a tree that the goddess Inanna, who was the goddess of beauty and desire and love and justice, tree that she was caring for, which essentially was the world tree. And that the great hero Gilgamesh comes and kills the serpent that was by the tree, but also frightens away Lilith so that Inanna could care for the world tree once again. There's other understandings around Lilith and some speculation that Lilith was considered various other characters with different names in other cultures and mythology. What's interesting is that Lilith in astrology, this Black Moon Lilith, stays roughly 9 months in each of the zodiac signs, which is interesting considering the time of gestation and pregnancy, it being 9 months. And this energy and archetype of the Black Moon Lilith, once again, is connected to one's primitive side, or even looking at repressed sexuality, or how we might consider one's dark side, or even like our shadows, our biggest fears, particularly around sexuality and creativity. Now, of course, I always recommend that you connect in with actual astrologers who work with these archetypes, who work with these cosmic forces, and have a deep understanding so that if you want to really look to see how this is impacting your life according to your natal chart, I recommend you do so. Here, I really just kind of want to give sort of this overview and general understanding of how there are these influences and archetypes that are at play in this time that are very much connected to what's happening. And I think it's just interesting to really look at these correlations and patterns. Last time I also talked about Neptune So Neptune, the planet of spirituality, of higher truth, and also in its shadow form, illusion and deception. So Neptune is in its home of Pisces, but it's stationing retrograde with this new moon. And so there's also a square or 90-degree alignment with the new moon. So that means that there's a lot of strong wave and watery energy here connected to this new moon. So we talked about all the wateriness anyway regarding this new moon in Cancer. So again, we may feel some choppiness here. And I want you to really pay attention to that, how that shows up for you. You know, Neptune in Pisces is really communion with a higher power. This is connection to the divine, your spirituality, your daily practice and connection. And that's in its highest form. Again, at its lower level of influence, it can be connected to deception and illusion. So two sides of the same coin. There is this ability with this energy to connect very deeply with one's intuition and spirituality and God, source, creator, whatever you connect to, if you connect to a higher power. And at the same time, the possibility for that coin to flip and go into illusion and deception. And discernment here is what's really important. The two things that kind of come up for me around this is discernment. So knowing what is truth for you, and also love. So staying in that frequency of love, staying connected to your heart space is going to have you stay connected to that divinity and that the gifts of Neptune in Pisces, if you will, versus going to the deep end with illusion. Overall, this period with this new moon, it really opens up opportunities for new insights and inspiration. There can be some clarity after the waves that we might be experiencing in this time. And I want you to really open up to that. Open up to what higher truths might show up for you, and planting those seeds for yourself in this time of what it is that you want to bring to your life, to call in and to manifest based on these higher truths. What's also interesting is Mars in Aries conjunct Eris. So this is on June 27th. This is warrior energy. Some astrologers talk about Aries that is connected to demonstrations, so coming out into protest. So this is definitely individual versus government energy here. Again, I can't help but think about the overturn of Roe versus Wade and everything that's going to be coming up. So of course, I'm recording this podcast prior to June 27th, so I don't know what's actually going to happen. But I am recording it after the overturn, and so much of this is making very real sense as it relates in my experience in the US. And so we're going to be feeling this energy throughout June. There has been a lot of talk in these Akashic channelings, which I'm about to go into one right now, around sovereignty, self-sovereignty, around truth. And I believe, at least the way that I really receive this and interpret it, is that when our guides are sharing about this, it's to put it into practice in real life, in embodiment, to actually reconnect with our intuitive abilities, with spirit, with our heart, with our truth. Learn how to do that. Build discernment or discernment muscle. And to remember so many things that I think as a collective we have forgotten. Maybe not as every single individual, but definitely as a collective, and that we need to be reclaiming, such as our ability to take our own fate back into our hands, that we are not subject to the ebbs and flows of whatever authority or authority figures might be in play at this time. There is so much that we ourselves can do in terms of like sheer survival, not alone, but in community and in support of one another and really helping each other out to reclaim a lot of these even skills that we have lost over generations. You could say that the majority of these so-called lost skills were actually taken away, right? Because as we know, looking at history of domination, a big part of the strategies of domination are to disempower by making certain practices, such as spiritual practices and connection to divine, illegal, and also taking away one's ability to practice their skill and to assert mechanisms of control. All right, so let's get into this channeling, because I think there's a lot here that came in that connects with a lot of what I've already gone over with the cosmic influences. And we also land up with a tarot card pull that kind of wraps everything together. So let's dive in. Here we go with our Akashic Soul Nourishment channeling for the new moon in Cancer, June 2022. The waves are tumultuous indeed, these salty waters flowing with a fierceness that only deep sea sailors know and fear. The turbulent water elementals are here to cleanse and clear your murkiness for clarity and renewal. Feel the depths of this water reflected within you. Feel the waves pull back and launch forth with the force of a tsunami. There are those that need not fear this commotion, staying steady as a fish swimming under the currents. Others, though, will be taken for this topsy-turvy ride and find themselves tumbling in the wake. The human condition is such that these wave-like impressions will cause movement within, feelings and emotions picked up from the ethers and swirling into a cascade of emotional well-ups and downs for that matter. Pray for your personal peace and understanding, for the work starts within. Peace amidst a storm, you ask? Yes, this peace, while mostly felt after, is present throughout it all, available for your reprieve and necessary for transcendence and healing during the ride. Do not be afraid to feel so deeply, but maintain your higher understanding and soul self-perspective. Do not allow the turbulence to keep your awareness drowning in the crashing of waves. Remember that you are both the experiencer and the witness, and the waves themselves. You are even the storm. There is no individual to blame for it, no independent entity or form of energy. It is a collective movement and interaction, always. Cause and effect, relational reciprocity. Pray to your waters within that each drop, which contains a universe in itself, is imbued with goodness and love. Feel the multiplicity of spirit within you, your body as a communion of energies and beings, swimming in the vastness of your creative power. Utilize your mind as the conductor, leading discordant sounds into harmonious symphony. Work with the depths and heaviness to bring you even higher and brighter light. Be the buoy in the vastness, self-righting and guiding yourself through the journey. There is so much more at play beyond your sight line. The unseen realms for most are participating in this dance. Remember to honor the helpers in all realms. They are here to bring water to the thirsty and help to wash your feet so that you may have clear footing and a sense of renewal upon your path. So that was our Akashic channeling. I'm not going to go into my interpretation of it or a discussion around it. I really feel called for you to just tune in and sit with it and stay open and receive whatever messages are coming up for you around that. The tarot card that our guides have given us and that I pulled after our reading is Major Arcana number 20, Judgment, or in some cards, it's called Awakening. I think this is very appropriate, and it brings in sort of a different light. It's interesting to look at even those two, like judgment versus awakening. Now, when we have fully connected to our truth, like stepped into ourselves, when we're finally able to look at the truth and say, okay, I can be truthful with myself and I can make decisions from this sort of higher vantage point, when the lights come on, we start to see bigger patterns. We start to view things not just from the perspective of an individual that is being swirled around in those waves that we're talking about, but you're able to understand things from this much more macro cosmic perspective. Judgment is ruled by Pluto. So Pluto is sort of like, Pluto's about underworld, right? Pluto is about transformation. It's about rebirth. It's really intense energy. It's connected to Scorpio, so scorpionic energy. And it's really about getting straight to our truth and to the soul and to the heart of the matter. Judgment also connecting to awakening, like this is where that awakening comes in. It's really looking at, where does this judgment show up for ourselves? Is it outside of ourselves? Is it something that we're holding within? It's starting to see judgment and how it's at play. So we can see these larger patterns. It could be like throughout history, your history, or a collective history, and how these patterns might be repeating themselves. So this is a lineage card. This is looking at your blood lineage. This is looking at your cultural lineage, societal lineage, looking at generations and generational trauma and gifts. This is also bringing us into a place where we can really start to choose. We have a choice to fall into these larger patterns or not. And to also look at how we might be judging ourselves. So, it's one thing to be very truthful with yourself and honoring, like, okay, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm playing this role. I'm playing into whatever play or drama is happening in our world or in our lives in that moment, that we're waking up to that, to our humanness around it, and that we can bring ourselves that compassion that I was talking about earlier with this new moon. And it's not about faking it or avoidance or condemnation. It's really about coming into this really profound opening and awakening of what is at play and what is true and what is not true. Again, like Neptune and Pisces retrograde, like deception, illusion. Like, what is the illusion here that I'm holding myself to, that the world is holding me to? This is huge. This is a huge opportunity, invitation, a huge step that we must take. We must take before we can break through and move into the next level, which is the World card, which comes after this. The World card is like the end of the journey, right, of this chapter. And before we get there, we have to come into this place of judgment and awakening, and to really look at what do we need to let go of or to lean into in order to move forward and complete this pattern, or to release it, whatever stories that we might be carrying. So again, I think that this card, we can really take it on an individual level and apply it to various and specific aspects of our life that we might be journeying with right now. And we can also take it at the collective level, because there's a lot of big shit that's happening right now. And I think that we need to come into this place of a higher perspective, and to also understand that, yes, is something like this, I'll utilize the overturn of Roe versus Wade, right? Does it have huge implications? Yes. Is it very real and going to make a big impact? Absolutely. Are there things that people want and should do, that is definitely up to you and what you are being called to do, say, and believe. But where I stand, I am really trying to position myself to look at the larger patterns and larger forces here, understanding that, in my personal opinion, and if you look at history, the government is not here to support your livelihood, your aliveness, your sovereignty. And there's a lot that has been lost and taken away from us and literally beaten out of people that now we are being called to reclaim. So what does awakening feel like for you in this moment? What does self-sovereignty mean to you in this moment, in time, in life? And what are you wanting to call in for yourself on an individual level and for your greater family, community, and for your collective, you as part of this vast ocean that is this collective of souls, because we are all connected, we're all interconnected. So what does it mean to be a part of that? And what does that look like in a very real and embodied way as you move through this life in your body? All right, so that's what I have for you today. I am wishing you and sending you all the love and juiciness of the waters that are flowing in this energy. And I'm feeling it. You know I'm feeling it as a Cancer sun. I would love to hear from you if you want to connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Wildly Rooted, or you can sign up for the email list so that you can receive updates and extra insights and opportunities and channelings and all the things over there that I share much more in my email list than I do over on Instagram these days. So you can go to my Instagram handle and you'll find a button in my profile to sign up for the newsletter, or you can go to wildlyrooted.com/subscribe and sign up there. Sending you lots of love and Cancer blessings. Hey there, I made something for you. One of the biggest challenges that I hear from people is that they are feeling stuck when it comes to their health. You're a smart, capable, and creative change maker, right? And you know what you should be doing for your health. So what gives? Well, it's not about willpower. And I wanted to create something that would help you to unlearn the things that are keeping you stuck so that you can get out of your own way and master the mindset of health. That's why I created Wildly Unstuck, where you'll learn the top 5 things that I have found to sabotage your health goals and what to do about them. You'll learn what it really takes to become committed and unstoppable when it comes to your health goals, and find the clarity you've been looking for so you know exactly what to do to get back into alignment. And I made it totally free. So if this is something that you want to dive into and create a vision and soul goals for your health and your life, and bring your gifts to the world, because we know that we need it, then I invite you to join us in Wildly Unstuck. You can find that at wildlyrooted.com/unstuck. I'll see you on the other side.